podcast. My podcast is Knitting on My Mind, and my name is Ida. I am a Swedish knitting expat living in Vienna in Austria since 18 years. When we moved here, we had 3 little kids. They were 9, 7 and 3 at the moment. We moved here because of my husband's work. Now they are grown-ups, and 2 of them live in Sweden and 1 is living here with us in Vienna. We were only supposed to be staying here for 3 years, at the most 5 years actually, but that was 18 years ago, so you understand we really like to live in Vienna. It's not very far from Sweden, so we can go home if we are homesick or want to see our family and friends there. My podcast is mostly about knitting, but I'm trying now to get a little bit organized, and every time I would like to present a craft book, mostly knitting books it will be, that I enjoy because I collect, as many of us knitters do, I collect a lot of books about knitting to be inspired by and learn things in. And then I will also tell you about my sewing, which I also like to do. And if I acquire something, I will show it to you and tell you a little bit about it. And also, if I find something of a curiosity that I would like to share with you, I will also share it with you. Today I'm going to share this. I'll tell you more about that later. And also I will try to share a little bit about Vienna, how it is to live here, mostly videos that I make from my everyday life. Well, let's get started. Today I am wearing a shawl that I knitted last summer. It is a shawl designed by Jojji Locatelli, who is, as far as I know, she's an Argentinian knitting designer. And the name of this shawl is the Suburban Wrap. You can see it here. I bought the pattern on Ravelry, and I'm going to show you how my Suburban Wrap looks a little bit more, the colors. So I have 3 colors here, the very pink one, the purple one over here, and then there is a speckled one, multicolor one. And it's a little bit fun with this pattern, or actually with the wool, because 2 of them are from Färnerwolle, which is an Austrian company, Färnerwolle, and they are actually hand colored. This is color 28, and this is called color 28. No, 24, 28 and 24. Yeah. And they are 100% superwash wool and lanas. They're 100% superwool. Lana is I think it is the Italian word for wool, and it's 500 meters per 100 grams. So it is like a fingering weight. And these I bought on a trip when I went to Salzburg. And then the purple yarn, it's called, the company is called Schillerster. I can't really say it. Schillerster. I bought this when we were in Edinburgh 2 or 3 years ago, when we celebrated our 25th anniversary. We had been married for 25 years. And this is cashmere 10%. Sorry about the abrupt stop there. It was the mailman who was ringing our doorbell. He brought something for my son from America, a package, and I had to pay toll and stuff. Anyway, I was talking about this yarn that I bought in Edinburgh when we went on our 25th wedding anniversary. and I wanted to tell you what's in this yarn. It is 10% cashmere, 10% baby camel, and 40% angora, and 40% merino lamb's wool. I wonder where all those animals were from. I hope they're from the Highlands, because I love the Highlands. I love everything Scottish. I love men in kilt. I love kilts. I love the tweed that they're wearing in Scotland, and I really prefer their accent. It's a fantastic accent. On this band there is a small description of the yarn. It says Highland Inspirations range, blackberry, the familiar fruiting bramble found everywhere from estate woodlands to the humble slab fence, lends this variegated shade its name. So it's called blackberry. Well, that's what I'm wearing. Off to the next point. But before we get there, I realized I didn't tell you, but some of you probably do know that you can find me on Instagram as Knitting on My Mind, and on Ravelry as Knitting on My Mind, and also I have a Facebook page, but I'm not very active on Facebook. Also, I want to thank all of you who has pressed the subscriptions button to my YouTube channel and who are leaving comments on my YouTube video podcasts. I really enjoy hearing what you think about my podcast, and I'm happy that you come back. Anyway, today now I'm going to talk about what I finished, but as I didn't finish anything, I can't really talk about anything that I finished, but I almost finished something, and I'm going to show you that one. I think I was almost this far last time too. This is the little jacket for little Leo, which is a baby boy who was born in January, and I have to finish it because I want to send it for Easter, because I found this really cute little socks that I'm going to give him also. They're from a company called Happy Socks, which is actually a Swedish design company from the beginning. They're made in Turkey though. They're called Happy Socks. But I have found this pattern in the book. I have already shown you this, baby sticking på stickor 3, baby sticking på stickor 3. So it's baby knitting on number 3, knitting needles number 3. But then I also found in this book these little pants. I think I have showed you them too, maybe. And I just kind of couldn't resist starting a pair of them for him too. I don't have so much of this wool left, so I picked up some green ones that I had in my stash. They were leftovers from other projects, and also I had a similar beige color. I don't know if you can see, but I think it starts, you can't almost see it. I think it starts with this stripe. It's a little bit lighter. So I'm on the first leg, and I really have to race here if I'm going to be finished and send it to him for Easter. Maybe he will just get the jacket and I'll send the pants later. It's knitted out of Lang Merino 150. And it's a regular merino superwash because it's for a baby. And I am knitting it on Adi needles 3.0. I cannot tell you what brand my DPNs are that I'm using at the moment. I'm actually getting a new pair of DPNs today because I don't like, they're so long for this little leg here. So I will hopefully finish the pants before my next podcast, so I will be able to show it to you and send it to him because he lives in Sweden and I want to send it when I am in Sweden. But I'll take a photo and either insert it here or put it on Instagram. This for Leo. I also found a project that is almost finished. It looks like a pair of socks, but it's not. It's actually a pair of slippers, and they are made out of wool, very thick felting wool. I don't have the band, I don't know what brand it was, but I am going to finish them, I hope today, and put them in the washing machine and bring them to our cottage, either to wear or to give to somebody for Easter. I usually gift my family socks for Easter. This year I have bought some socks, and I was thinking maybe these could be gifted, or I will keep them for myself. We will see. So that was the almost finished part. Now I want to show you a little bit about what I'm working on, what project I'm working on. And I will start with something that's almost finished also. I keep the yarn in this bag, made by myself, and the sweater is over here. This is the Icelandic sweater that you have seen a couple of times. I think the lighting is better if I hold it up like this. And I have almost finished the yoke now. And this is also supposed to be finished for Easter, so I have to get going there. I'm not 100% happy about the yoke because it's a little bit bubbly. I hope it will stretch out when I wash it and put it down for, what's that called in English? When you stretch it out. You know what I mean. When you put it flat to stretch out a little bit. It's for my husband. It is the Asymptote by Lars Reins, and you have seen the pattern a couple of times. I have showed it to you, but maybe somebody's new and haven't seen it. And it's a book. It's called Modern Looping, and on the outside of the ebook is this pattern called Asymptote by Lars Reins. It's an ebook. I bought this also on Ravelry. The wool is Let Looping, which is my go-to Icelandic yarn. It's fantastic. We bought it on Iceland actually when we were there a few years ago, 2 years ago in the summer. And I keep my pattern in this little booklet with the dollar horse on it. And I can, with this magnetic bar, I can walk up the pattern, and you can see there how little I have of the pattern. And then I have to knit a little bit in the main color, and also there are some short rows in the back so that the back will be a little bit higher than the front, so it will fit well. Well, what else do we have? I'm working on a cow from a little girl in brioche and 2 colors. You can't really see a lot of it here. Where did I put the picture? Here it is. It's by Monica Eidelpies. She's an Austrian designer, and she used to have a company called Wollrausch. I will show this to you really close up so you can see. This is what it's going to look like when it's finished. Doesn't really focus, does it? Here we go, I think. And I have now increased, so the ruffle will be over here on this side. And the balls that I'm using are Malabrigo, Arroyo, superwash merino wool made in Peru, Then we have Pernilla from Ficolana, which is, let me see what it is, 100% ren ny ull, virgin wool. And then Sholana, Kid Palette. It's a mixture with the nicest super kid mohair, it says on the band. Let me see exactly what it is. Oops, here we go. Mohair, 42%, 40% polyester, and 18% silk. It has little palette. I don't know what that's called in English. Yep, and this is made in Italy. I always wonder where the sheep are from and how they're doing before they leave their wool to us. I'm actually reading a little bit on that, and I would like to talk to you about that later. This is kept in the Dala horse sock bag made by me with little snaps. And then I have a third project that I have been working on also. It is my northeasterly blanket. Let's see what I have the picture of that. It's over here. It's by Skeineinigans. Her name is Melissa Alexander Loomis. And it is a scrap blanket pattern. And I really enjoy it, but I haven't had so much time to knit on it. I am now, since Lent, I'm actually doing a part in the rainbow colors. So we have red here, orange, then comes a little bit yellow, green, and blue. And most of these are Herbstblatt Regina's advent calendar colors. The green one is a sock yarn from Mali by Homespun House yarn company. And as far as I know, they are all merino, except for maybe this one. Anyway, right now we had the blue week, and now we are in the indigo week. So I am actually going to use the yarn that I talked to you about before from Scotland for indigo, and then for purple. This is a, I was going to say no brand yarn that I bought at a workshop last year. I have no idea where it's from. So these are the two remaining colors for the rainbow part of my little piece of northeasterly. And I was thinking, when I finish this this one, the rainbow part, I'm going to start adding my second, what do you call them? I don't know what you would call them, band. I want to try to start the second band, because then I have to add it on the side here, and I'm really curious how that goes. So I'm going to bring this for Easter holiday and see what happens, which colors are going to happen, and so on. And they live in my little moving bag. And of course, I also work on a pair of socks, which are actually just a vanilla pattern that I'm making up as I go. And I'm doing a little braid here, just crossing two knit stitches over one another, and then I have two purl stitches in between, and the back side is just plain stockinette. And I'm working with Sauberball Stärke 6 So it is, how many? It is 400 meters per 150 grams. So it's a little bit thicker than the usual wool that I'm using for socks, and I'm knitting them on my She Goes 3 millimeters. 3 millimeter. And as usual, 2 at a time, magic loop. They're coming for Easter break too. I told you last time I wanted to knit on my Longing for Gotland sock. I have one. I really have a second sock syndrome on that one. I haven't started on that yet. Let's see when that happens. These socks live in my London bag. Well, I think that was all of what I'm working on at the moment. I have a little paper here, my notes, what I'm going to do next. Well, I wanted to talk to you about my future projects. I am making this cowl that I showed you for my daughter. I'm also going to make in blue. And for myself, so it's the same wool. It's Malabrigo, and it's Filcolana Panilla and Cholana Kid Palette. That's one of my products that I'm going to do, and then I'm going to show you out of a magazine. I have to go and get it though. I'll be right back. I am going to knit a pattern out of this magazine that I showed you before, Sticka och sånt. It's called Sommartoppen. In English that would be the summer top. And it looks like this. And I'm going to go today to get the yarn for this top. It is in the pattern. It is knitted in cotton. It's knitted in Bonnie by Permin, 100% cotton, 220 meters per 50 grams, with knitting needles 3.5 and 4, and it's knitting in the round from the top down. I really like this. The designer is called Ninette Hartwich. But I talked to you about sustainability and knitting last podcast, number 3. I am going to try, instead of knitting it in cotton, I'm going to try to find a hemp or some other more, in comparison to cotton, more sustainable yarn. I will tell you about that next time if I find something that I can live with. We'll see. These are future projects. Then, now I'm coming to something that I have planned for a little while that I really want to start in my podcast. I want to show you one of my books. I have a very large library here. I mean, I think it is a large because I have started collecting knitting books recently, actually, maybe 7 years ago or something. And I already have a couple of meters up there with different knitting books and magazines. Also crochet and embroidery though, because I get so inspired and I really enjoy it. I almost enjoy it more than reading novels. I read craft books, and to me it's, the book that I'm going to present to you today has a very special, it's close to my heart. It's called Sticka, Svenska, Mönster. And Sticka, Svenska, Mönster is by Maja Karlsson. And Maja Karlsson, let's see if there is a picture of Maja. Maja Karlsson is a fabulous knitting designer. She lives in Värmland, which is the province where I come from in Sweden. And the reason I started to knit again, I have always knitted. I knitted a lot when I was in high school, and I knitted some for my kids when they were little. But then life happened and the kids took up a lot of time, and I went back to school to be a kindergarten teacher, and I didn't really have time to knit. Oh, and then just, what do you say? By chance, I read an article in a Swedish newspaper about Maja, and I read that she had a blog called Husmorsskolan. And I thought, that's interesting, I'll check that out. And that actually got me started again in knitting and crafting, because she had a weekly knitting cafe on her blog. So people posted what they were doing, what they have finished, what they were knitting on, and so on. And she also posted recipes and knitting patterns and a lot of things, and things about Värmland, where we come from. And it really made me a little bit homesick, and also longing for the Swedish traditions and to knit Swedish traditions. And it got me started knitting again. And therefore this book, which is her first book, actually she has now published a second one that I think I have showed you, the one with mittens, 30 mittens or 35 mittens. This book is also available, I know, in Norwegian. It's called Strikk, Svenska, Mönster, and the publisher is Gurli, Berg, Förlag, but also in English. And in English it's called Traditional Swedish Knitting Patterns, and it's published by Trafalgar Square Craft Books. Traditional Swedish Knitting Patterns, and I can highly recommend it. I feel like I'm home when I read this book and I look at the patterns, and I have been inspired when I've done things, but I also made a couple of things out of this book. I have, for example, I want to show you, I have made a bag, a handbag, or a little strap bag, or whatever you call it, like this. She has the pattern here, and then she encouraged us to select a pattern, because she also has a large pattern library in the back here. I don't want to show you everything, because then I'm going to show off her beautiful book. But you can see here there are a lot of interesting patterns in her book. And here is, for example, the pattern that I used on my bag. And this is my bag. It has a red strap, and it has red flowers or stars in the front and the back. It's the same. It's actually knitted in the round. And I lined it with, what's that called in English? It's a wool fabric that is felted. So I lined it with that. I've used it a couple of times, but most of the times it just hangs here on my wall and reminds me of my home. It's funny how you I live abroad for 18 years, but I think I'm more Swedish than I was when I lived in Sweden. And here in the back you can see of the book also some of her beautiful patterns. She has jackets, sweaters, mittens, the really interesting thumb, a poncho, a cowl that I started but I never finished. This is actually Anna. Anna is a friend of my kids. Oh, this sweater is really nice also, with all the patterns flower patterns, kind of. Oh, look at this one. Isn't it beautiful? The roses and how she designed the puff here. I don't know what you say in English. For all ages. I really like that with her book. And look at Anna here again in this stunning sweater. Okay, so we see it's Swedish. And the ice skating jacket. And this one. I don't know this person though. She's beautiful. And the sweater is beautiful. And the hat. Hat Lisa. And this is actually the hat Anna. It looks like a tam. Maybe I should try that one. It's really nice. And some slippers. Well, now I showed you most of the things that are in her book, but it's very nice because it's there are a lot of nice patterns, and in the back there are all these or is this library of traditional Swedish patterns, and they are, as far as I know, they are all. Oh, some have 3 colors somewhere, but most of them only have 2 colors when you knit them. And this book is by Maja Karlsson. Thank you, Maja, for a fantastic book. Maja keeps on designing and writing books, and you can find her. I will link. I will write her all the links so that you can find her on Instagram and on Ravelry. And she also have a homepage, I think, because she has also a small store where you can buy crafting material. And her little store is called Majas Manufaktur. Then I want to show you what I have been sewing on since I saw you last. And you actually almost saw the bag that I have my yarn for my cowl that I'm going to knit for myself later. I have made a pretty big, large project bag in my my Lieblings, what do you say in English? The best material I know, the best pattern I know. These elephants, they're called elephants, and they are, it's a thick linen material, and it is designed by Estrid Eriksson of Svensk 10. Svensk 10 is an old, almost 150, not really, 100-year-old design company in Sweden. They sell furniture and materials and interior design, lamps, rugs and stuff like this. But this is, it was started by Estrid Eriksson, and this was actually, as far as I know, one of the few patterns that she designed. They are very well known for their designs made by Josef Frank, who was an Austrian designer who came to Sweden during the World War II, or before the World War II, because he had a Swedish wife, and he has done a lot of designing for Svensk 10. Anyway, I have made my go-to pattern. It's a pretty simple pattern. It's boxed here, like this, and it's lined with caro stuff whatever that's called in English. And I put a little "made with love" saying in there. And then I put the star material for the strings. It's a drawstring bag, and I like this combination because this is a very traditional Swedish woven band. They were traditional for our folk costumes, and I have combined it with this more contemporary material, and to me it combines some of the best of two worlds, two worlds, the traditional folklore and the more contemporary typical Swedish pattern. I make bags and sell them also. I don't have a store on the internet. Maybe I'll start a little Etsy shop if there is some interest to buy my bags. I have though made a bag for a lady who has ordered it, and she was very particular. She wanted a bag in purple, and I don't have any purple material because I don't usually use purple. So I went out and I bought this material, and I combined it with a flowery lining. This material somebody gave to me, as a matter of fact, and it's the same. It's boxed and it's lined, but it also has a zip. You can see here the little details, how I cover my zip when I make zip bags. Can you see it? See if you can see it better on this side. I have to cover my eyes. And I always make a little strap with a metal ring where you can put your stitch markers. And this is my little card. So I'm going to actually deliver that today, and I hope she will like the material that I chose for her. Well, that was book and sewing. And then I also have acquired something. As you know, I am not supposed to buy any yarn this year because I have so much yarn. But I discovered a new yarn shop last week, I think, Monday, when I was off from work. I always have Mondays off. And it's called Wien. It's a very small shop in the middle of Vienna. It's in the first district. And I thought, well, I'll just go in and see what they had. They had a really nice range of different wool, mostly Austrian wool from Färnewolle, but also some Scottish wool, I think it was, or UK. Oh, I don't remember which it was. And they also had my a couple of needles that I really like, the Chiagos. I like the Addis and I like the Chiagos for different things. Chiagos are more pointy, so for lace and stuff they are better, but other than that I always buy Addi needles at my local yarn store. But anyway, I went to this Wien, and I wanted to try out a couple of their yarns, so I got sock yarn for my 12 socks this year project. It's from Färnewolle. It says it's produced by Färner Austria. It's hand colored. You can wash it in 40 degrees, so it must be superwash. It's 75% wool and 25% polyamide. Handgefärgte sockenull. And then just for fun of it, I got also, because I thought it was neat, you know, I don't like to knit with cotton because it's not sustainable, but this one was recycled cotton. It's called Sakintos, 100% recycled cotton, 100 grams, 192 meters. These you have to wash by hand though. It's made in the EU. That's interesting. I'm also always curious about where the wool is from. If you go to Fanevolle's homepage, they don't tell you where their wool is from. They tell you that it's produced in Austria, but you don't have any information about the origin. As far as I haven't seen it, at least. If somebody from Fanevolle sees this, I would be really happy if you could tell me where your wool is from, because I like to buy local things. I also got a couple of stitch markers there. Do you think I can, whoops, see if I can show them to you. I'm gonna put this over my eyes so you can see them better. They are called the Rainbow Collection. And they came in this little tin. It's from a company called Rebecca's Room, and they are from the United Kingdom. Ooh. That doesn't focus, does it? Let's see if I can hold it over here. No, it doesn't focus. I will write down stairs. I will write under my video so you can see where they're from. Well, that was almost everything that I had today. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about something curious. I have a friend, or I know somebody who does another podcast. She's called Britt Arnild Liland. Her podcast is Britt Arnild on YouTube. I will also put her link down below. And she's from Norway. She's from Trondheim. And she's also a knitter, and she works in the church. She's a deacon, I think that's what the word is in English. And one day she had on a necklace with big wooden pearls. So I asked her, does it have to do anything with the church colors? You know, the church here has different colors. And she said, no, it doesn't. It's from a company called Gudrun in Sweden, which that has nothing to do with the church. And then I said to her, well, when I was in kindergarten school, I took religion as one of my subjects. And I also had to take one of my exams I had in religion. And I am also Montessori. I'm a trained Montessori teacher, and in the Montessori in pedagogics, we use a lot of materials for the children with pearls, with beads. For example, we have, when the kids have their birthdays or when we talk about the year, we use this chain of beads, and each color represents 1 month. So this is January, which is the first month, and the number 1 is also red. And then we have February, and then we have March, and we have April, and we have May. So the number 5 is also blue in the Montessori materials. And then we have purple, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. which is actually supposed to be gold, but this is natural. And then we have, this is an extra 11 for November and 12 for December. And we put it out in a room, and we also combine it with pictures for each month, for example, for the birthday, and the children walk around this circle so many times they are of age and their birthdays. So when I did this exam in religion, I thought, why not make a chain with beads in the colors of the church year? And this is what I came up with. So each large bead here represents a Sunday, or a Sunday actually in the church year. So let's see, where do we start? We start here. This is the first Sunday of Advent. And then we get into the Advent time. And in the Swedish church, Advent is blue because Advent is the time of Lent. And in the Swedish church, we usually, not always, it could also be purple, but it's very often it is blue. And then I think this is Christmas Day. And then we have white here, and then we get into Trefaldi. Is it Trefaldi already? No, it's, yeah, I think it is actually. Oh, people that know this, I don't really remember. Anyway, over here we have some Sundays between Christmas and Lent again. And I did do it blue because I wanted to be a little bit different than the Austrians, because they always use purple. But it's also very common that we use purple for the Lent, which are then 7 weeks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is the time of passion. I don't know, passionstiden we call it in Swedish. And that is purple in my chains. And this black over here is Good Friday, which is the most important day in the Evangelic Church. It's the day that Jesus died for us on the cross. And then we have Easter, and then and then it's going to be white over here. I'm not going to go into what time this is. It's probably the Easter time still. And then we have Pentecost. You know, when Jesus came down with all the languages to us, so we should understand one another and don't fight with one another. And I think this is John the Baptist Day. And then we have all these green times here. This one, I don't really remember which one it is. Anyway, I have to read about it a little bit more closely to tell you, but I'm showing you this just as a curiosity because I know Britt Arnild was curious to see this chain. And of course this chain cannot look the same each year, because the days will not be exactly the same each year because we change. Anyway, that was the chain of the Swedish, or the church year, and actually the birthday chain of the Montessori pedagogics. I hope it made some sense to you. I was thinking about talking about sustainability also, or actually about where does the wool come from segment or something today, but I think this is a little bit too long today, and I also have some things to do. So I will say goodbye now from Vienna, and I hope you enjoyed some of my rambling, and if you did, please press the subscribe button and leave a comment, and I really appreciate it, and it was fun chatting with you, and I will be back after Easter. Have a good time until then. Bye from Vienna. you.